Good morning, class. Today is Monday, June 4th, and can you believe it? It's the last week of school. I know this is not the last week of school that we would have hoped for or envisioned, and I am particularly sad that we are not able to do the fun things that I would have wanted. So, this week I have really shortened all of the academic things into one kind of video. We're not going to do math this week. We're not going to do science this week. As far as math and science go, you are welcome to finish any of that math over the summer. And in fact, I actually really encourage you to take the time, go through the questions that you haven't finished, and, take maybe 5 to 10 minutes a day to practice a little bit of math. Same thing with science. That one's a little bit harder to do on your own, but you are certainly welcome to, especially, for practice, doing the hop, skip, jumps, doing the what do you call it? The PBL, the project-based learning with the pugs at the end of each section. All of those are great ideas. The only thing that I would like to really, 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 really push for is that this summer, make sure that you keep learning in some way, shape, or form. It's going to be really hard for a lot of people to get back into the swing of school whenever we do go back into school. And so I want to tell you, you are going to be leaps and bounds ahead if you keep working hard, even just 5 to 10 minutes a day. So that's my little plug for continuing to learn over the rest of the summer, or at least a little bit at a time. Here we go with the work we have for this week. So today for Monday, your task is to, 1, make a single player game. So this is a game that you could play by yourself. And the reason we're doing this is because this is the example of the kind of fun thing we would be doing if we were still in school right now. And so you see one example on the right where they took like a little ping pong ball. You could use a Cheerio, and they made like a maze basically that it had to go through on the right. So your game must be made of only materials you have in your home and that no one else needs and you have permission to use. So if your sister has puff balls, do not just steal them without asking. If your mom is using plastic straws, do not just steal them without asking. Make sure you ask permission first. Number 2, your game must have clear instructions written with good grammar. Your game must use creativity and be well thought out. Your activity is to be single player. That means to be only played with you or you and a pet. All right. So here are some ideas of what you could do besides this kind of marble maze game that you see on your right. You could do a card game or develop a new take on a card game that already exists. So maybe you enjoy playing solitaire or something like that and can switch it up. It could be a marble maze like the one I just showed you made on a paper plate. It could be an outdoor challenge, for example, an obstacle course that you try to beat yourself at in your backyard. It can be a Rube Goldberg machine, which I'm going to put examples of on the Wiser Me page. It could be a recycle putt-putt course. So you've probably been to a putt-putt course somewhere in Pueblo. I know there's one right next to our vet. And what you do is, we used to do this competition in my school all the time as I was growing up, and it was so much fun. So maybe you make your own windmill and you have to shoot it through the windmill. Maybe you make like a slope. Maybe you put some rocks in the way so that it's harder to putt it through. You also don't have to use a real golf ball or a real putter, just to be clear here. You may use whatever you find in your house. That's kind of the name of this game. Maybe you make your putter out of recycled pop cans or pop bottles. Whatever you think of, it is for you to be creative. Maybe you invent a new version of tic-tac-toe. Maybe you would invent your own style of video game that you'd like to create someday. Just think about what kind of game you want to play for yourself. So this is our activity for today for 2 reasons. Number 1, consider that we're doing this instead of like really hard science or math work like we have been doing. It's also just a fun way to kind of transition ourselves from a day-to-day schoolwork into the rest of the summer where we have more free time. Use the summer to be creative and to do really cool things like this. Summer is a time where you get to be yourself and have a little bit of free time. And so hopefully, especially if we have to stay inside any longer, you're getting lots of good activities that you can do by yourself. Okay, so in addition to doing our single player game, I did want to finish up all the musical medias because I am going to text all of your parents what you finished, and I'm going to leave it up to them. If I was your mom or dad and you hadn't finished any of this stuff, I would make you do it over the summer. So that's just me. But it's up to your parents to determine. So we're finishing all the musical manias so that your parents have the ability to go back and check. So our musical mania today, speaking of parents, is What's the Matter with Kids Today from Bye Bye Birdie, which is a really weird musical. I don't really care for it too much. This song is kind of funny. But in this musical, it's about like basically Elvis Presley, or imagine like a big, big superstar who comes into town and he has to kiss one random girl in Ohio before going to fight off in the Vietnam War. I know, super weird. But this song by itself is about a dad complaining about his daughter being all rebellious. And I'm sure you're going to hear this from your parents at some point. I was a very well-behaved child, did not rebel or anything of any imaginable form. And yet I still think my parents became frustrated with me in middle school and high school. So know that that's completely normal, and to kind of process some of those feelings as we're listening to this song. The first time you listen through, we're only going to listen to the song twice. First time, I want you to find good examples of word choice and a skip it and move on strategy if there's a word that you don't know. Second time through, I want you to draw a picture of what you think is going on using that visualization strategy we've practiced so much. So once you're at this point, that means you're ready to dive deeper into the questions and you've already read the song, listened to the song, or did both at the same time, 2 times. Number 1, which of the following best describes the singer? A, he is a grandfather singing about his grandchildren, joyful about how they are growing up. B, he is a father who is singing about his children, frustrated that they do not show respect to their elders like he was required to. C, a teacher frustrated that his students are not respecting him like they ought to. Or D, a police officer catching kids who are getting into trouble. So the answer in 3, 2, 1 is B. He's a father singing to his children, frustrated that they do not show respect to their elders like he was required to. There's lots of text evidence in this song. Whoops, wrong button. There's a lot of text evidence in the song that shows us that this is the case. Some of the main ones are like fat and lazy, something with that they should. And so kind of look for those text evidence that say they should respect me, they should behave better. I don't know why they're doing what they're doing. They're definitely things that a father would say, not a grandfather or a teacher. And they're definitely more of a negative tone, not A, which is more of a positive tone. Number 2, noisy, crazy, sloppy, lazy. Oh yeah, noisy, crazy, sloppy, lazy, loafers is best described as A, a list of adverbs describing how these kids these days act. B, a list of verbs about all the wrongful things that the main character is complaining that kids do. C, a list of adjectives describing the negative qualities of youth from a character's perspective. Or D, a list of sarcastic qualities that the singer gives adults. I'm going to give the answer in 3, 2, 1. It is C. Remember, my sentence stem for if something is an adjective is the phrase, I am blank. So I am noisy, makes sense. I am crazy, that makes sense. I am sloppy, that makes sense. I am lazy, that makes sense. Obviously, we don't want to call ourselves these negative things, but that is all adjectives. Remember, adverbs are like lolly, lolly, lolly. Get your adverbs here. These do not end in ly. So continuing on with our musical mania, number 3, all of the following are problems that the singer lists kids have these days, except A, kids are always talking and never leaving a moment of quiet. B, they have annoying, messy pets. C, kids do whatever they want to do no matter what adults say to them. Or D, kids don't appreciate what their parents are going through and don't take care of their aging parents. I'm going to give the answer in 3, 2, 1. It is B. Nowhere in the song is there text evidence that says that they're complaining about annoying, messy pets. Number 4, talk and talk until your face is blue is an example of A, a metaphor, B, a simile, C, alliteration, or D, hyperbole. This one, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be confused on. 3, 2, 1. The best answer is actually D, hyperbole. So we can first of all cross off B, simile, because there's no like or as in this phrase, so we know for sure that's not the right answer. A metaphor, I could see how people think that, but it's not really comparing anything, right? We're not comparing your face turning blue to something else. It is kind of alliteration, talk and talk, but it's using the same word, so that's not the best answer. Remember, a hyperbole is an exaggeration. The classic one is, I could eat a whole horse, right? You're not saying that you could eat a whole horse, you're exaggerating. So that's what that figurative language would be. Number 5, why did the singers end the song with nothing's the matter with kids today? So you need to write your own answer there and give your best interpretation. Continuing with Lightland today, we are going to do Chapter 10, The Room Below the Mill. Our first part is the vocab section. Look at the quotes from the book and try to find the best synonym for each of the underlined words. But how? What did you? Lottie spluttered quietly. What happened? What does spluttered mean? Number 2, the green glow from the walls disoriented her. Lottie swallowed hard and indicated with a jerk of her head that they should keep walking forward. What does disoriented mean? Number 3, when they had disentangled themselves and reached the wall, the crack had closed and Lottie was gone. What does disentangled mean? Number 4, the big rat stormed out impatiently with one last glare at Lottie. Half of its ugly mouth curved into a grotesque smile. What does grotesque mean? Number 5, time and space exploded or imploded with Lottie Cook at the center. It was deepest night and brightest day. Love that juxtaposition or that contrast between two opposites. What does imploded mean? So our comprehension questions for this chapter are, what happens to Robert in this chapter? Is he afraid or now willing to help Lottie and Umber? This says number 1, but it should be number 2. Why is the Night King afraid of Lottie Cook? Number 2, which is actually number 3. If you were Lottie, would you have touched the pink cloth? And the last one, what happens to Lottie when she touches the pink cloth? Predict how the story will end at this point. We're kind of at a tumultuous point here in their story. We're also going to read chapter 11, which is the Veil of Oblivion. It says, look at the, try to find the best synonym. I don't know if we did this already, but sin means same, anti means different. So synonyms are the same word, antonyms are the opposite. Number 1 for the vocabulary. Now the Night King had left, locking LWOS in the room with his collection. He felt every muscle of his body quiver and collapse. He slumped to his knees and looked around bewildered. What does quiver mean? Number 2. Looking into the vast pile of cloths, LWOS decided to choose one. He would tear one and use a strip as a bandage. What does vast mean? 3. Still, even with his boots smoked and smelled of singed leather, even when he saw the fear in his small friend's eyes, LWOS was light-hearted. What does singed mean? Continuing with the vocab, he couldn't believe that he hadn't seen it before. It was such a strange, deep color. Scarlet, but also molten. What does molten mean? Number 5, by the windows, LWOS was incredulous. We've got to be 6 stories up. What does that word incredulous mean? And then for our comprehension questions, which veil should LWOS try to find? The one that will take him home or the one that will take him away from Lightland? Or the one that might help him defeat the Night King? Number 2, what is the Night King's plan for Lottie? And number 3, this is probably the part that made me love this book from the beginning, all the different rooms of Lottie's house. So we visit Lottie's house, and with the squirrel room, the leaf room, and soon the spinning room. Draw and design your own crazy room that might be found in the Cook home. And that is it. Let me go over kind of the previous day's answer key. Chapter 8, solid memories. Tarnished means dirty, not pure, not clean, or muddy. Number 2, unnerved means uneasy, uncomfortable, confused, and spluttering. Number 3, knickers are pants, shorts, a piece of clothing. Number 4, temperament means attitude or personality. Number 5, fortress means castle, lair, dwelling, or building. For the comprehension questions, number 1, why did Lottie's father and teacher believe her about LWOS? What does this surprise you? They believe her story because they have also been to Lightland as children and listen patiently as Lottie tells. Does this surprise you will depend on the person. Number 2, on page 129, the author writes, all children know adults only believe what they want to believe. Do you think this is true? So your answers will be totally different. I kind of gave you an example for myself yesterday. Number 3, what information does Misty Avignon give Lottie about Lightland? She tells Lottie that it is real, however, it is constructed completely out of memories. Number 4, to get back to Lightland, Lottie has to think of her earliest memory. What is your earliest memory and what do you remember? Lottie remembers her grandfather. Your personal memories will be different. She specifically remembers her grandfather saving someone from an icy pool of water, a lake. Chapter 9, vocabulary. Apprehensive means scared, uncomfortable, uneasy. Decoy means fake, not real, false. Transfixed means paying careful attention, watching carefully, not able to be distracted. Concocted means created, made up, or imagined. Insipid eccentricity means craziness, weirdness, or oddly. Number 1, your answers might be different. Number 2, why do you think LWOS is finally able to speak? He probably has the confidence in defeating the Night King. 3, why does the Night King, or like being with his father for the first time? What does the Night King study? Is this science? He studies terrorizing people. LWOS states many times that this is obviously not a science. What challenge does the Night King give LWOS? Do you think he'll be able to complete it? The Night King challenges LWOS to find the most dangerous cloth that he owns, the Veil of Oblivion, amongst all of his thousands of creations. And number 5, if you were LWOS, what would be your strategy? LWOS is given a choice between finding the path home and the cloth that will help defeat the Night King. Thank you so much for tuning in with me today. I miss you all so much, and I'm like so sad that I cannot be with you right now. And I love you all so much, and see you tomorrow.